It's Melissa Carter. I am the writer and publisher at Wanging Dude Publishing. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. Please subscribe if you would like to know when the next video is available. So if you're new to the channel, I am sharing my experience with writing my first book. I had written a children's book before with some co-authors, and this is the first time I'm writing my own story, a memoir that I'm publishing myself under Wanging Dude Publishing, which is mine. So I wanted to share with you some ideas about writing. And I certainly am not or did not create this channel to come across as a writing expert. So, as you heard, it's my first book. So, but I have written news scripts for decades. I have written articles for decades. I've done short form things for decades. And this is the first time I've done something long form. What I do want to share with you is something that I do think is important for anyone to understand when it comes to writing for an audience and how to connect with that audience. And I'm coming at this through my experience with radio, and that is vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable if you're writing anything. So if you're writing fiction and you're creating these characters, well, obviously you're drawing from some of your own experiences and channeling them into these characters. If you're doing like me and it's nonfiction, well, you're talking about yourself. I think a lot of times when people get into media, they make the mistake of thinking I have to be perfect. I have to put on a perfect face. I mean, Instagram is the perfect example of this, where, and Facebook can be too, but I just know Instagram being such a visual medium with, pictures and the perfect family portraits and the perfect house. And, here's a picture of my living room. And it's in perfect state. I mean, the reason that my background in my office is blurry is because that's messy back there. I'm not trying to be dramatic or, some kind of cinematic experience or image I'm trying to portray here. It's because that's messy. And I don't have like the fancy background that everybody else does. I don't have the bookshelf that everybody, had during COVID where they put the just exact books in and everything. I'm a single mom. That's messy. So that's the reason that this is this way. You have to be able to tell the not so perfect side of yourself. And I mean, in this book, there are some stories that I share that are not attractive at all about me. Some ignorant things I did in my youth that I talk about because it's the truth. And it's something that I learned from. And I think it's important to share your vulnerability. So if you think about the people in the public eye that you relate to, or you're a fan of, or you're feel some connection with, or whatever it is it because they're perfect? Now, let me say that let's disregard the hot people, right? The good looking people you would love to have in your life. The fantasies is not what I'm talking about. But the idea that someone's life is perfect is nonsense. I know that with my son, he is 9, about to be 10. I can't believe it. But I don't allow the word perfect in our house because I don't want him to ever strive for that. It's unobtainable. It's a fantasy, and it's not worth the effort because of the stress involved. So why am I saying that? When I was on the radio, I was one of the first out people on the radio in Atlanta, right? So I came out on the radio and I talked about my sexuality at a time when nobody was really talking about their sexuality. And I talked about, I was on a show and several shows where we told stories. And it wasn't just about my sexuality. There's so many things I can't even remember. It's been a minute. But for decades, I came on the radio. I was a little nervous. If I was going to share something that was really deep, something that I was embarrassed about, or something that I kind of was protective of, I was hesitant to share that part of myself. But I found the more I did that, the more I connected with listeners, the more support I received when I was more vulnerable. Now, of course, there's people who are critical. There's always going to be people who are critical. So that's one of the other things you got to remember. In radio, I realized that if I made somebody angry to the point of emailing me and telling me what a piece of crap I was, or if I got a fan who was in tears, letting me know how much I meant to them, both are eliciting a reaction, a strong emotional reaction, which meant I was doing my job. Now, I don't take for granted anybody that was touched by anything I said or did. I find confidence in that, right? Because in a way, it allowed anything I was going through to serve a purpose. And that's kind of the reason for this book. I'm telling you, it was really tough to write again about some of these experiences because I found me emotionally going back to those places. Like when I talk about when I really got sick uh, prior to my kidney transplant, there was a part of me that I went back there and almost started to get a little bit of, I don't know, like uh, worried about my health again. Right. I don't know. With my health, I take it seriously, but I don't focus on it. I don't, meaning I don't obsess over it, I guess I should say. I don't overthink it. I live my life and I do the best I can when it comes to my body and my health. I follow the rules. I do what I'm supposed to do and hope for the best. And writing this book, sometimes I got a little I'm trying to think of the word, but when you just are focused on your body and wondering, what do my aches and pains mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? I think the combination of a COVID isolation and then readdressing these issues really kind of put me in a mental state where I had to take a break a time or two. Um, but that's vulnerability. If you get to the point where you're uncomfortable writing it, then it's probably going to be something people want to read. And they're not trying to read it to make fun of you. Now, some will. Some will read some of the things I have in this book and think, oh my gosh, like I liked you and now I'm not so sure. But for the most part, it connects with people. They like seeing people not be perfect because they're not perfect and life isn't perfect. And I think that we try to root for the underdog because we like the idea that somebody can come from something uncomfortable or unfortunate and make something from that that's great. And I think we enjoy those kind of stories. And so hopefully this book will bring that type of story to your home. But I think if you are a writer or a filmmaker or, an artist, whatever you do to express yourself, even if you're just a speaker, a conversationalist, you have to be vulnerable. You have to let people see the ugly as well as the good side of you. Um, Gosh, there was a bit I wish I'm going to have to, at the end of this video, I'll put up the lyrics from Billy Joel that I think is perfect for this and a song he wrote about someone he loved, and I think it came to me. It's pretty simple. It's like, I've seen the best of you. Now I want the rest of you. And so surfacey things don't connect with people. But if you show them everything, then you may be surprised at the result. You may be surprised at just how much people needed you to do that because they're going through the same thing. So just consider that when you're writing or doing art or doing music or doing filmmaking or whatever type of expression you have. Just consider, look, go a little deeper. Don't try to impress others. Try to make a purpose for what you're doing. And I appreciate you being part of the channel. Please subscribe and let us know your thoughts down below in the comments, please. Anything you want us to talk about, we'll be happy to do it. And until then, take care.